Did you know that the top 5% of Canadians are millionaires? And today we're going to discuss how to make this happen all before you turn the age of 45. And we're not talking about hitting the jackpot, literally, or on the stock market. We're going to break down some realistic steps that you can take in order to achieve this goal and put you in that top 5% of Canadians in their financial positions today. I want to start off by saying this obviously isn't a guarantee, but it is going to put you in the right direction in order to make this goal happen. As of right now, the median net worth of a Canadian at 45 years old is in between $250,000 and $500,000. And I'm going to show us some simple steps we can take to be able to multiply this by 2 to 4 times what that current number is. Really, to make this goal happen, we need to do a few things. The first being, we need to set specific goals going forward. The next step is living within your means, or even living below your means. Third, we're gonna look at investing early and investing consistently year over year. I'm gonna touch on ways on how to increase your income, not just employment income, but looking at other sources as well. Then we'll talk about why education, why financial literacy is so important in that journey of achieving this $1 million goal by 45. And the last point I'm going to touch on is why you need to stay patient and stay consistent through this plan. At the end of the video, I'll also be going through a client who's 30 years old with literally 0 assets to their name and how they're going to achieve this $1 million goal across 15 years time. The first step we're going to talk about is setting realistic goals. So I'm not talking about the realistic goal of I want $1 million in 15 years. No, we need to set milestone goals, or what we're going to call SMART goals. I'm sure you've heard this term before, and I'm sure some of you are well aware of what it stands for. But if you aren't, SMART simply just means it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it has a time period. So if we can create goals over different sections of your life, you're going to be able to get to that final large goal in a realistic time. So a great first goal to have is to simply save 18% of your net. And we're not talking about hitting the jackpot, literally income on a monthly basis to savings. Whether it's your TFSA, your RSP, your emergency fund, any of those vessels can be used to save in. So as long as you're saving up to 18%, this can be a great first step to take in order to push you into the right direction. A simple way to do this is have automatic payments set up. You will find this to be your best friend when it comes to saving. This way you don't have to think about putting money aside. It's going to be pulled out of your accounts on a monthly basis, so you can set it up when you know your income or you know your paycheck's going to come in. Have that money set aside right away so you don't have to think about it. Pay yourself first and then use the rest to live off of, whether it's housing, living expenses, food, clothing, all of that will come after you've saved this set amount that you've utilized as your first SMART goal. Now, to continue on with that SMART trend, you need to have a time period for this. So to keep it simple again, let's put a 12-month period where we're going to be saving this amount into a specified account, so such as your RSP. The next important step to achieve this goal of becoming a millionaire in just 15 years' time is live below your means. Don't try and push what you can spend on a monthly basis. Utilize your funds in a smarter way by, again, saving it, investing it, paying down debts. Utilize those accounts in a way that's going to help you later on. Live below your means now so you can benefit and reap the rewards of that later on in life. If you haven't already, go watch our video on budgeting. We provide a great tool which will help you compare what you're spending to what an average person in the same, income level is spending at that point in time. It's going to give you a great insight into what you're doing and areas that you can improve on to help you really realize where you're spending and how to budget better for that going forward. Now, it kind of ties into this topic a little bit as well. Living below your means also means don't spend a lot on your credit cards. Don't exceed what you can spend on a month-to-month basis by maximizing your credit cards, carrying forward that debt, because that is one of the biggest inhibitors when it comes to your ability to save in retirement, your ability to build that net worth going forward. Now let's look at investing early and investing consistently. Have you ever heard of compound interest? Simply put, it's by investing earlier on and just receiving a decent rate of return. We're not talking about 20, 30, 40% year over year. We're talking about 5 to 6%. By just investing earlier on in smaller amounts and just receiving a consistent rate of return ongoing, you're going to see the compounded interest effect, which is going to absolutely drive your net worth forward. And you'll get to that point so much quicker by having this ability to save earlier on versus saving in those last 5 years where, yes, your income might be higher, so you're able to save more, but you lost out on that growth from earlier on in life. Again, I just want to hammer home that this does not need to be a significant amount earlier on. You might not have a lot to save on a month-to-month basis. Maybe it's $200, maybe it's $500, maybe it's $1,000, whatever it is. Start early and it's going to grow over time and it's going to build on itself to a point where you didn't even realize you could earn that much going forward. Take a look at this picture where it shows the benefit of saving earlier on, how that growth exponentially shoots your net worth forward versus if you were to delay and start saving at a later point in time and how much you need to actually make up for that lost time. Next, we're gonna look at increasing your income. Did you know that 65% of millionaires have at least a minimum of 3 income sources? And I'm assuming a lot of you only have one income source, and that's your employment income. So you need to start looking at other options or other ways to generate wealth, and we're going to kind of talk about those in the form of a side hustle. So side hustles, you're not going out and, selling cans or picking up recycling cans and dropping them off at the depot. It's a great side hustle, but it's not necessarily what we're talking about. We're talking about ways to promote yourself, to sell your services, to sell your unique abilities and generate wealth from that. It could also be hobbies that you have or just passions of yours. Are you able to monetize these? Because there are some great options to do this. So first one being, you could create a YouTube channel. You could have the ability to simply record on your phone and upload these videos, and over time it's going to start creating some wealth and start creating some revenue going forward. This is going to take time. It definitely will take time, but it will potentially create an income source down the road. So that is option number 1. Option number 2, again, I kind of touched on it, is using your unique services, your unique abilities, and monetizing that. So there's multiple different ways to do this. You could sell your services on websites like Fiverr, and you're basically, someone is hiring you and contracting you out to do a task for them that you might find easier, you might find really enjoyable to do, but they just don't have time for, and they'd rather spend the money on. So you might as well make money from doing this, and it's an easy income source going forward. Now, along this journey, obviously you're making more income. Don't increase your spending. You need to stay, again, below your means. You just created a new income stream that you're now able to save more on a month-to-month basis. So utilize those funds and save them into your investment accounts, save them into your retirement accounts, and watch those accounts grow again going forward to a point where we're able to reach this $1 million across 15 years' time. Now let's talk about financial education. You're here, that's a great first step, but there's so many other resources that you probably aren't utilizing to learn about personal finance and to grow your expertise in this area to help you achieve those SMART goals, which you've outlined or which we've outlined and you've probably started working on in that first step. You'll be amazed by the motivation that just simply reading a financial literacy book or watching, financial education videos can provide you and help you along the way, because it is kind of taxing trying to build wealth, and it's taxing on not just your finances, as you might be trying to live below your means. It's not always the easiest thing. You might be tired of trying to earn that extra income and those side hustles or those extra stream of income sources. It can be taxing. Different educational resources can really be motivating to help you see the upside of this, to help you see where you could be going in the future. Some of the books that I've personally found motivational in my own financial journey are The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. All of these are great reads which will not necessarily give you that next step on how to make this happen, but it's going to provide you a bit of a motivation to help you reach that ultimate goal that you've set in place for yourself. The last step, or the last point I want to bring home with you today, is be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. You need to be consistent with what you're doing, and it's going to pay off. You're not going to see the results tomorrow. You might not see it next year, but you will see it down the road, and you'll be thankful that you took these steps today in order to make that happen. Now, without just talking about how we can make this happen, I want to show you how this can happen. So we're going to look at a scenario here where it's a 30-year-old couple. They are both earning income at this moment, and that's all they're doing. So we need to obviously implement some of the steps we talked about, such as some side hustles, such as savings, such as, staying and living within their means. So without further ado, let's take a look at that. Meet Mr. and Mrs. Young. They are both 30-year-olds who are wanting to achieve this goal of $1 million by 45. So $1 million in today's dollars in 15 years times is roughly 1.3233 million based off of inflation. So currently, and I'm going to dive into each side, but currently they're both working. And then we're also going to look at implementing some side hustle options as well. So let's jump into Mr. Young. So you can see here, we've got a couple things going on. We've got his employment income, and it's not growing, and it's not growing significantly, and it's also not a significant amount either. It's $80,000 a year, which for a lot of you is realistic. So he's earning $80,000 a year, and it's just gonna grow by $2,000 every 2 years. Now, after this first year, he's just implemented his savings plan, and he's going to start that side hustle number one. So he's gonna start selling his abilities on what is Fiverr. So it's basically the ability to contract out his specialty and earn additional income. So you can see there, we start off at just $3,000 a year, so $250 a month, and that's just gonna grow slowly over time. So every 3 years, we're assuming that he's either increasing his fees or he is just working a little bit more on that side of things. And then we'll go on to side hustle number two, which is an online course or a YouTube video or anything like that. So he's able just to work on this over the next 3 years before launching, or maybe it takes him that long to monetize it. But eventually he'll get to a point where he's generating a bit of income, and it's not much. It's $100 a month, and it's gonna slowly increase as well over time. Now, if we look over at his savings pattern, he is maximizing his RSP on an annual basis, and then he is able to save some into his TFSA based off of the tax returns he's receiving, as well as any additional income that he's generated is then able to be deposited into that account. So we're never actually exceeding his max amount, which is great because he's able to then continue saving within this tax-free vessel. Now looking at Mrs. Young, similar on her side as well. We've got her employment income of $64,000 a year, and similar to Mr. Young, it's going to increase by $2,000 every 2 years. We also have this Fiverr contracting side hustle that comes in next year, and then 3 years down the road, we also have that online course. So whether this means they're working together on both of those and this is just the combined income, or they each have their separate side hustles, is an opportunity there as well. Now, when we look at her accounts, she is again maximizing out her RSPs on an annual basis. And then with that tax return and any additional income that comes in will then just be deposited into her TFSA. So when you look at the results, first off, pointing out they are spending $72,000 a year, so $6,000 a month. This is not substantial when you think about, I haven't included any housing expenses, either mortgage or rent on an annual or monthly basis, so that would have to be part of that. I haven't included any vehicle purchases or anything of that sort, so they are going to additionally need to budget for those in that $6,000 a month. But this is living within their means. This is living potentially a little bit below their means in order to make their goals happen. Now, when we look at the final results down in that bottom right corner there, you can see that I have a net worth of $1.32 million when they both turn 45. So 1.32 million, again, roughly comes to about $1 million in 2023 purchasing power, which is their initial goal for their finances going forward. I hope you're able to gather some great steps to help you reach these goals of not just slowly building wealth, but building wealth to a point where you're living comfortably still, but you're able to see the results ongoing. If you're looking for more financial education, more financial resources, look at the link below. We've got our masterclass there. We're offering $100 off by using the link. Go ahead, read through that. It's another great tool to help you reach that next step of financial freedom and that next step of reaching those goals. Maybe it's $1 million in 15 years. Maybe it's sooner. You never know. So take those next steps, learn more, educate yourself better in those areas to improve your financial abilities going forward.